I am so excited for today's guest because not only is she an expert in walking and talking women through the menopausal transition when it comes to fitness and nutrition, but she's also my coach. Yes, coaches have coaches because, we need accountability too. And sometimes we need someone to talk us off our own nutritional ledges, so to speak. This conversation's great. We had so much fun. We talk about what to do when menopause throws you for a loop, even if you think you're doing all the right things, even if you know you're doing all the right things. We talk about why maintenance calories could be a menopausal woman's best friend and how exploring maintenance and really getting to know what your personal range is can be the missing link when it comes to your health journey. We talk about what affects the scale, all the things that make it go up and down, especially for women, because there's a lot more variables than you may think. And barely any of them have to do with fat gain, especially when it comes overnight. And finally, we dive into what your goals might be now versus what you want long term and how you might have to change your thinking to end up where you really want to be in the end. And once again, it's about thriving and not merely surviving. So let's get to it. I want you to meet Mickee Stillman. Mickee Stillman, welcome to Eat the Fucking Food. I am so happy you are here. Thank you.
I'm
The reason
thrilled
we're
to be
laughing
here.
so much is this is like our third start of this podcast. But as I've told everyone, Mickee is my coach. You have helped me tremendously navigate the last, I think it's like 2.5, 3 years of my nutrition journey. And Mickee's expertise is in menopause and muscles. It's on helping women eat up to their maintenance calories before you get to mess with anything else like a deficit or a surplus. So I'm so happy you're here because, as you may have known, I want people to eat the fucking food. But maybe we can start because I know I love coaches who've also been there. And you have recently been very open on Instagram about your menopausal journey. So can you take me through what your experience, especially as a coach, has been
Yes.
just the last couple of years?
I've been in the, strength conditioning and nutrition space for a long time. In the early 1990s, mid 1990s, I started as a fitness trainer, strength coach, and then have been doing this for a long time. And in the last, 7 or 8 years, been doing nutrition. So I have a background of education. I have, degrees from colleges that, gave me these papers that, says I know what I'm doing. And so it's like when I started to approach, my own perimenopausal journey, it was like, wait, you know what you're doing. You're lifting weights, you're eating protein, you're eating fiber, you know what your calorie ranges are. Like, why do you feel terrible? Why do you feel super hungry? Why do you feel like you're feeling puffy and inflamed? Like, perimenopause should not be happening to someone like you. And in that time, like, no one in the space was talking about it. And so I kind of was in denial for a long time. I started working with Laura, who's the founder of our company, Elevated Pursuit Nutrition, at the time, because I was like, for how much I'm working out, how much I know, how dialed in I am, why are my own personal results kind of being stalled, like not working like I thought they should be. So we started working together and, found obviously knew maintenance was, we started working into a build. And at some point she came into the call and was like, girl, I think you need to like talk to your doctor about like menopause. And I was like, what? Not me. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go all natural. And she was like, okay. So, but the data and the evidence of all the things I had didn't lie. And so, I started this journey. It was a couple of years where I just didn't feel like myself. I could tell with energy, with body composition. I was storing belly fat. I was really puffy when I first introduced some HRT, just all kinds of things. It's just my mindset. I wasn't sleeping, all the things, right? So that's kind of where I started. And it was really, really hard to get online and share knowledge and pictures and like workout videos and stuff that I always had. Cause I'm like, this doesn't even look like you. I look back at stuff now and I'm like, my gosh, the people that were like, sticking on board with me during that time, God bless them. Like they'd be like, what is wrong with you? But
No,
that's
no one
that's
thought
where
that because I
was.
was with you, I think, before you started sharing, like, all of your stuff. You were very honest in our calls and everything, but I didn't know what you were going through. And it actually, when you share, it makes it so much easier because I know recently when I came back to you just like for the accountability and also to have, like you said, I know what to do. I know what to do. Am I always doing it? Maybe not. Also, just to have someone else with that overview look at it where you can, like, I can't see the forest through the trees sometimes, you know what I mean? When you're talking about yourself. So I thought it was great when you were sharing because here's the thing. I love how you said, I'm not going to go through that. And we've learned the hallway, like hard way, we don't have control how it's going to hit us. Like, yes, I 100% believe like nutrition, working out, water, your daily steps, all are a great foundation for having a better, but it's not better menopausal transition, but it's not foolproof. We don't have the control over that. So when things got rough for you, what did you tweak first?
So obviously for me, like it was, I already had a really strong strength foundation. Like I was lifting, like workouts have never, been a problem. So, I think like if we're talking like about like somebody who's listening, these are a couple things that like sometimes we see other trainers and coaches online and we're like, oh, well, they're using HRT. That's got to be the quick answer. Or, whatever medication or thing that they decide to use, like, oh, that could be the quick answer for me. But what we know is those are just a tool, right? To help us feel better and to like have some, some progress where like even like mindset wise, we start to feel better and can sleep better and recover. But like having that foundation of strength training first and then solid nutrition and making sure that we are not feeling good. And when we are thinking like the only thing I want to do right now is go into a deficit because I feel puffy and terrible, and you have somebody unbiased eyes goes, you know what? I know what you want right now, but what do you want the most? And so that's the conversation I have a lot is like, what do you want now versus what do you want the most? And that's the hard thing to hold of like, how do you get where you want to go, but by playing the long game? So for me, it was that accountability of not slashing calories, right? Just because I felt terrible because it wasn't going to do me any good, right? Just to cut those calories in that moment because just hormones were still moving around. I was still stabilizing out the HRT and that dosage had to be adjusted and things for myself, right? Not everybody has to have HRT. I'm not doing that. Like, that's not the answer. I have a lot of clients that go all natural, but however you decide that you want to do it, it's like, but also having that foundation of strength and nutrition first makes the biggest difference because I see lots of people come in and yeah, they might have added HRT or things like that, but they still don't understand how our bodies work and that we still will thrive and our bodies will function when we're in the correct calorie ranges for what we're trying to do.
You're so good. You led me right to the next question I wanted to go into even before we started talking. I like have a roadmap, but then I usually let these interviews kind of go where they are. But this is perfect. So let's talk about like that urge because I have felt it. We get puffy. We're not feeling good. Our first instinct, because I think it's what we've been taught and just kind of absorbed, cut calories, cut, cut, cut. I know one of the things that you do as a coach is no one can cut before they learn to maintain. Can you explain why, one, what maintenance means to you as what maintenance calories mean? Because I know a lot of people get scared by that. And two, why it's so good to know what maintenance is before we make any changes.
Our approach at APN is that we don't take anyone straight into a deficit. Number one, because everybody has genetically specific maintenance ranges. And unless you've really actually done the work, which there are some people that have, but the majority of people don't actually know what their maintenance range is. Now, the reason that we find that first is because once you know what your specific maintenance ranges, then you can go into a deficit or you can go into a surplus or you can just live in maintenance, right? And so a lot of times, a majority of, especially my menopausal girls that come in to work with me either as one-on-one coach or in my group cohorts, they think they're in maintenance because their weight's not moving, nothing's changing, everything they've done in the past is not working. And when I say everything they've done in the past, that might be like, oh, I added intermittent fasting, or I slashed carbohydrates, or, I just added some workouts, or I added steps, and those things kind of got progress rolling in the past. Well, they might be eating like, let's just say 1,500 calories, or they're having really high weekends, right? And so we're seeing this like up and down movement, this yo-yo. And so we're not in a place of stability. And so what we do is one of the things that is very, very different from other types of nutrition coaching is we want everyone to build themselves a blueprint. And so we start by building this blueprint of what your meals look like throughout the day. Like we try to move calories to breakfast and lunch is the biggest things, because what happens, especially in peri and postmenopause, is we start losing energy. We start having these energy crashes. We're tired, all the things. And we start to realize that breakfast and lunch really should be your biggest meals. And that is such a different approach than a lot of people kind of, throw out there. So as we find what your maintenance is by building this really structured blueprint, right? Because what happens is when you are actually able to eat enough calories and get the biofeedback going to where you're like, I have energy, my sleep is good, my recovery as well, I actually feel strong in the gym, I'm starting to have PRs, like I don't have this afternoon crash. When you start to feel that way and you can do that with enough food, then you get to a metabolic place where you can then drop calories later if you need to. But if you came in, let's just say, Kristin, you came in and you were eating 1,500 calories and you're like, well, this is my maintenance because nothing's changing. And I'd be like, okay,
Right.
that's your maintenance. Then guess what your deficit gets to be? It's going to be like 800 calories, right? But your
Right.
true maintenance, and we know for you, yours is like what, 2,200 calories. So your deficit was like 1,700 calories, right? And so
I think the lowest I
or even
went
higher.
recently was 1850. It was 1850.
1850.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say. 1850.
I know.
So that's
And
what I'm
man,
saying.
like that
people,
feels a lot better. Right.
Yes.
Because I know my personal experience with you, and I was tracking macros. I had not yet gotten any advanced nutrition training at the time, but I was working with a company and I'm eating more than I had ever eaten before, right? Which probably tells you how little. And I know the first time I worked with you, when I went to find maintenance, I think I was around 1,600 calories a day. And now, once again, when I started with you and I ended our maintenance 12 weeks, I think I was at close to 2,400 that first time. I don't think the scale didn't move until I hit close to 2,300. In fact, it started dropping. And it was the first time in my life as I'm going up, as I hit like 2,000 calories a day, which for me was like, let's sit down. Like you said, your job is to eat during this little time. And I was like, yes, it is. Let's eat. I mean, my brain went, okay, let's do this. Because I wasn't feeling good. And I was like, I am doing a lot. And I'm seeing women online talk about, and everyone's story is different, but talking about like, I'm eating 2,000, I'm eating this. And I'm like, what? So let's give it a try. But like, it didn't move at all. Like this fear we have of the scale, which is a whole nother conversation, but it didn't move for the longest time, which was
And we
such an
see
eye
that-
opener to me.
We see that a
Yeah,
lot,
go
especially
ahead.
when people first come into and work into maintenance, is because your body's
Yeah.
kind of been in this like adapted down state for so long. It's like it has this moment where like we have to overshoot maintenance the first time we find it because we don't know how high you can go until we start to gain. And so a lot of times that first maintenance is scary for people because you're like, well, I end up gaining weight maintenance. Like, well, not necessarily, because generally what happens is once we hit, about 2,000 calories, we do add a pound or two, right? Every 200 calories, just because we have more food volume, more glycogen. But we also have to kind of push that envelope to see how high we can go, because you're going to thrive the best when you're sitting at the very top end of maintenance. Maintenance is a range, right? And you can live down here or even adapt down here just because you haven't been taking care of yourself, but you're not going to thrive there. You're going to thrive at the top end, at least. That's where you have the most benefit from your workouts, from getting your biofeedback improved, all of those things.
You don't have to sell me on that. Like you've already sold me on that.
Not trying to sell you.
The light bulb. I'm not trying to sell you. We're trying to sell a lot of other women. Let's start eating. Eat more.
Right.
You can eat more. It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sell's the wrong word. Convince, encourage. And I was also committed to like lifting heavier for me, which is still, I see other women's numbers and I'm like, all right, let's go. There's still room probably to move for me. But I remember being like eating at that level and working out, and I play tennis and stuff. And I was never sore, which was huge, mind boggling, because I would leave the workout tired. Like the gym I work at, the workout is down 10 steps, and I'd be like, oh, tomorrow's going to hurt. And it didn't.
Yep.
And now whenever it's funny, I'll be like out somewhere and someone's like, I am so sore. I'm like, eat more carbs. Like as I walk
You're
by,
like,
I'm
I'm
like,
sorry.
probably
That's
not
so
eating.
sad for you.
You're probably not eating enough carbs. And I just like keep
Mhm.
going. And they're like, really? But yeah, that was great. The other thing that took me by surprise is my hunger cues. Not the first week, but it was like week 2 and 3. I could have gnawed my arm off and I was
Mm.
eating 200 calories more than I had been. And that was such a surprise to me. What was going on there?
Yep. Well, part of that is as you start to come out of that adaptive maintenance state, like your body kind of goes like, hey, yes, what you're doing, keep doing that. Like this is my cue to you that like I actually need more food. So, sometimes I have clients that come on the call and they're like, I'm adding more food, like, and like, what is going on? I am so hungry. And I'm like, your body, it's a really good sign. I think if you are not hungry, especially in the morning, for whoever's listening, if you are never hungry in the morning when you wake up, that's a red flag. Like I would be really concerned if I were you. I'd be like, okay, something's got to change. So either, it's time for you to really start dialing that in. Of course, like there's nuance here. If you're in a surplus with a coach who knows what they're doing, you might not be hungry in the morning, but generally people that, are not hungry in the morning, that's a big red flag. If you can go most of the day and not eat till 1 o'clock, or you're like, no, I just have a little coffee, or I don't think about food until later in the day, red flag, red flag.
100% agree with you. And I'm so happy that I'm like, it's funny. It's like, that's the answer I wanted. You're obviously able to answer any way you want, but it's true. And it's funny because our bodies adapt, right? We adjust. Like I'm no longer starving eating 2150. It's normal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it becomes our normal, but our bodies adapt. And when we've been eating lower, and I wasn't even intentionally eating too low. I thought I was eating a lot of food. I thought I was being healthy. And in hindsight, things were like I should have known better. I was not aware of biomarkers that I should have been paying. Like my sleep was really bad in my early 40s when I was doing like the detoxes and all these other things in the name of losing fluff. Digestion was bad. It wasn't until I started eating more that a lot of that cleared up. So I love the whole maintenance of it,
Yes.
of being in menopause and learning about maintenance. It's such a good gift to give yourself.
It is. And I think, it's been really fun because I have these menopause and muscle groups of gals, and it was funny, like I said, Laura was like, hey, you need to like look into, your own journey. And I was like, eh. And then it got to the point where I was like, I started taking some hormones and I started doing, and I was like, hey. And then she was like, she goes, I hate to tell you, but I think this might be like your niche. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a menopause coach. Like what? And so I kind of, she would tell you, I kind of went kicking and screaming into this demographic. And now I'm like, you guys, like this is the best group ever because we have so much to learn. You are going to be brainwashed in the best possible way ever when you hang out with me. I'm just going to we're going to do this. And these groups now of these gals are just like thriving. And we had a group that launched last July, and we do 12 weeks of maintenance first, and then we do 12 weeks of muscle build. And you get to kind of pick your rate of gain for a muscle build. And most of them, most women don't want to do like a full send surplus, right? Because it's scary to gain weight, especially when you're sitting in a place where you're like, I'm already 10, 30 pounds heavier than I'm at. Like, why would I want to gain more weight? It's like, well, we're not necessarily gaining weight. We're trying to add some muscle. So we come to a place of more of a lean build where you pick that. And these girls were like, no, they're like, I have been shrinking and trying to shrink my entire life. I have done dieting and nutrition the same way for 55 years. I'm not doing it like that anymore. When we go through menopause, our filter comes off. Things do not bother us like they used to. And we kind of go you can't tell me what to do. We are now part of the We Do Not Care Club. We call our We Do Not Care Club Nutrition Edition. We do not care what anyone else is doing. We're going to do it our way now. And these gals, and yourself included, it's like you get to a place where you're like, you know what? muscle determines how we age, how we
Hmm.
look, how we move. Like I'm a grandma now, and I'm like, I want to be able to be as active as I can with all of my grandkids that are one that I have, and many I'm
Yep.
sure that are to come, and to get up and off the ground and play with them and be active. And I don't want to be frail, and I don't want to be a burden, and I want to be independent, and all of those things. And that comes from having muscle on your frame. Right. And so, like, how do we
100%.
get there? How do we get there the most effectively, the safest, without adding extra body fat when we're doing it? Right. And there's a way to
Hmm.
do it. And we collect so much data and we give so many guardrails that you can't fail. So, it's scary to do it on your own. Right. But it's very, very guided and kind of how we approach that.
And I love how you're talking about how guided it is, because I was talking with someone online actually, and she's like, I'm ready to eat more. Everyone around me that's thriving is saying they're eating so much more. I'm ready to eat more. And she's like, but I'm super scared. And I was like, I get it, because we've been taught you're supposed to do it this way. And now all of a sudden there's a small group going, no, it's more, it's better, but you don't go all in. And this is what I talked about with this woman. Like, it's a slow process. You talk about guardrails. You're not telling someone, like, we're not going up 500 calories next week. What is your process for raising the amount of food that a
So
woman
it's
eats when she first comes to work with you?
Yeah, so it's very, very detailed. And like you said, we move pretty slow. And so, I don't just add 100 calories every week just to let's see what happens. At EPN, we are very, very data driven, but human perfected. So we watch trend lines. We have, I mean, if you could see the spreadsheets and the systems that we have in place on the back end, you'd be like, your mind would be like this. We have so much. Laura is a genius, like an engineering genius, just
She was a guest a few episodes before, and I joked with her. I'm like, I love the data that I've learned, and I've learned like through Mickey. I go, but at the same time, I'd rather write a paper about it than like all like there's a level where my brain goes,
my brain shuts
no,
down.
I
Yeah.
was the journalist, the English major, like
Yeah.
I go the other way.
So we have those guardrails in place, right? So we have all of this data and stuff in place. And so what we do is we watch a trend line, and we obviously like to see like your scale weight being pretty flat. And so I don't make adjustments. Generally, it's about every 3 or 4 weeks. Just kind of depends. We can make adjustments every 2 weeks, but I like to go a little bit slower also because even if we are perimenopause or postmenopause, we still have weight fluctuations throughout the month from hormone changes. If you're a woman of childbearing years, you might see greater fluctuations around your cycle, around ovulation. And so if we're only taking one scale weigh in once in a while, I didn't realize this until a few years ago, but like even for myself, it's like all of a sudden I'd be like, my scale would be like doing this like a normal thing. And then it'd go bing, it'd go up like 3 pounds. And I'd be like, what the heck? And then it would stay up for 7 days. Well, as soon as it spiked like 3 pounds, I'd be like, I'm getting my period tomorrow. And kid you not, every time it'd stay up for 7 days and then it'd flush right back down. I have girls that happens around ovulation, not their cycle. Sometimes it happens twice a month. And so if that's the case, we don't necessarily want to be making increases or decreases of calories just because you've had a hormonal fluctuation, because it's just water that's moving throughout your body at that point. So we watch these trend lines and then determine whether we're going to adjust calories or not. But what we know is that for some people have a really large range of calories where your deficit has to be kind of low, but your surplus has to be really, really high. And some people have much smaller ones. So for myself, my maintenance is like 1850 to 1950, and my build is like 2050. So like 100 calories above my top in maintenance, I'm in a build. If I go to 2400 calories, it is like full send, YOLO, let's pack on the body fat for me. Right. So like it's a controlled amount. It might only be 50 to 75 to 100 calories higher. Some people it's hundreds of calories higher. And that's what you learn is what your specific ranges are. So if you've got, there are some men coaches that are like, oh, just add 100 calories a week. If you did that to a perimenopausal woman, you would pack on 20 pounds. If you're gaining like 10, 15, 20 pounds in a build, it's pretty aggressive. And you're probably adding, 1-to-1 ratio body fat there, or we want to do it a little bit more controlled, especially in this like season of life.
And isn't that also where consistency really comes into play? I have clients that we're working on just being consistent 7 days a week, not 5 days a week, not four, not letting the weekend go. I think Laura called it, put it in the fuck it bucket and like let it go. Like it doesn't count. It's like a magic 2 days and, but everything counts. How important consistency is, especially during these menopausal years, rather than extremes, like I'm going to fast for 2 days in a row, or I'm going to drop my calories. But the one thing I love is just consistency pays off so much more than we think it does.
So I think that is one thing that is really, really important. And we start to see that in like how we gather data and like what we talk about. But like, we want to like pull in a calorie range and like kind of like, it's almost like when you go bowling and you bumpers up for your little kid. It's kind of like that with your calories for a while. It's like you kind of want to be as boring and kind of have these bumpers up for a while you're really trying to find your calorie range, because if you do these highs and lows, you run the risk of that scale fluctuating all over the place. You also run the risk of adding extra body fat. You put yourself in accidental surplus or accidental maintenance, which is just kind of packing on some body fat. You might start to notice that you're feeling a little bit fluffier, a little bit softer. Maybe you're dumping some muscle. Your body composition change. You're like, well, my average calories are kind of the same, but those highs and lows is probably one of the worst things you can do. So, if you're doing like low days and then a high day, like metabolically, like I would say that would be one of the first things you want to get rid of. Like tighten it up, just hit, 1,700 calories or whatever you're at. Just like hit that same amount hit your protein, be consistent, eat whole foods. Like the more consistent you are, you're going to feel better. Inflammation drop, you're going to have even energy. You're going to be like, oh, I can actually go out on date night. I can go do these things on the weekend and still hit my calorie target, because you're not doing this up and down stuff and then feeling like restricted and binging. And like that mindset part of the consistency of your food all of a sudden also changes your mindset and how you approach food and how you think about it and how you travel, how you vacation, how you have date night, how you live your life year round. All of a sudden it's not this like big yo-yo of the scale of calories of your life like it used to be.
Yeah, I love that. And maintenance is how you live. Like, I love that quote, what you just said. Maintenance is how you live your life. That's where we should spend almost not all, but a lot of our time of the year. It's not the shortest amount of time. It's the biggest amount of time. And the amount of freedom it gives you is wonderful, especially if you've been someone who likes to, or not likes to, I don't think any woman really likes to diet, but like is in the habit of summer's coming. Let's, like dieting before the holidays, dieting in January. It really gives you the freedom, and it's everything you've been searching for in a way where you least expect it, because we've just been taught, always, I've gained weight, eat less, move more. And that's not quite the answer, especially now.
No.
You mentioned a phrase, body recomposition. So one thing struggle is probably a strong word. I think I'm in a good place now, but I weigh more than I did when I started looking for like answers, right? I know some of that is muscle, maybe a lot of muscle, just by the amount of what I can pick up when I pick up a weight has drastically changed from 3-4 years ago. And my clothes are the same size, but I'm 10 pounds heavier, right? So I've had to do a lot of mindset work around that, because I also know that muscle I've put on is what's going to help me when I'm 80 and 90, be independent and not, to keep thriving. Like there's a lot of years left, and I don't really feel like sitting in a chair watching other people do things for, until it's absolutely, that's the last gasp that I have. But you talked about we see the scale go up a couple pounds. It's a lot of water in women. How do you tell your clients when they're arguing with you about the scale, but everything else is really good? How do you help them let go of that number?
Well, that's the tricky part. That's the golden question, right? That I hear all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say I'm trusting the process. No, you're not trusting the process. You're trusting the data. We're seeing the numbers. And so we have, obviously we watch the scale only from a data value point. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person or your value in the world. It's only just that number of it just tells us what the calories are doing or what your weekend did. That's all it is. It just says oh, your calories are perfect. They're too high or they're too low. That's it. So that's what the scale does. I have them lean into their photos. So, one thing is we take our photos. That's normal in a lot of different programs. Don't look like a serial killer in your photos. Smile and flex and let's see what that looks like, right?
I'm usually like this.
I know, right? Smile and flex. And I
it's
really
early
encourage
and it's
my
cold.
more flexing.
More
So
flexing.
when you do that and you make it fun and you take a stupid selfie at the gym, like who cares? Like smile and like flex, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
do that. And then what happens, like I had a conversation with one of my one-on-one clients this week. She's great. And she's like, oh, she's getting ready to end a build. And she's like, I feel so full. I'm tired of eating. I don't want to eat anymore. And I'm like, well, you're doing a good job when you came in being like, I love food so much. I can't imagine like you ever, telling me
Yeah.
I can't eat, or I'm going to be done eating. And I'm like, oh, you'll get there. So she gets one. She's like, I literally like, I'm fine. Like I can go 2 more weeks, but that's it. And I'm like, great. So, and then she's like, but I feel just kind of puffy. And I'm like, well, number one, we have been asking your body to grow. Like we have gave you enough food and you have been lifting. You have hit every PR, like threefold of where she started, right? Hitting these PRs. I pulled up her photos and when you're the one that sees yourself in the mirror every single day, you don't really see the change or we're the hardest on ourselves and we're like, oh, look at that little tiny, thing on my back or whatever, that's all you see. But as unbiased coach, like I have all the photos that you've taken and I will put them side by side from where you started, where you're from. And this one person in particular, I said, she's up 1.8 pounds from when she started. After a 20-week build, she's up 2 pounds. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's a very small rate of gain when you do it correctly. She's up 2 pounds, and I'm like, now look at your photos. And I'm like, look at your delts. Her butt was like this, and now it's like this. I mean, like build a butt, like muscle.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, the inches, the circumference measurements have changed, but all in areas that we were asking to grow. Around the hip, which is the glute med, the quads, the biceps, all of those things, those are growing. Girth measurement around the belly button is about the same or just a tiny bit up. Obviously, that's going to grow when you're asking yourself to grow. So when you start to pull up that, and there's always that feeling that we have, like, we're still programmed from the 1900s about how to shrink and be skinny and drink Slim Fast and like all the things. It's like right, like it's like we still have that default tape playing in our head, and we get to that place. And so we talked about it, showed her the photos, and she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, you're right, like you are so right. And I'm like, I know this is going to come off, the weight's going to come off really easily for you. And so that's what's really fun is like, it's a hard when you have to go like, I want to lose weight to what do I want the most and how am I going to get there the fastest and the most efficiently. And it's always with a lean build, muscle build, surplus territory first. Your deficit will be easier and you'll be able to sustain it. Because once you know how to do maintenance, the 6 to 8 weeks after a deficit is the most important phase of nutrition of your entire year. People think like, oh, I'm going to do deficit and I'm going to go on a cruise. Well, you do that, you have a high propensity of gaining back almost everything you lost, but it'll come back as body fat because you didn't do it right, because you went full YOLO and didn't care. You have to be really boring after that deficit. And so if you know how to do maintenance and how to do it properly, you're going to sustain your loss. So if that yo-yo stuff is still happening, that probably means that you need to spend more time and more work working on maintenance, because your deficit's a very short part of your year. Even if your brain, a lot of women are, even if they're in maintenance or built, their brain is still thinking like, I can't wait to lose. I need to drop the scale. But that's a really frustrating place to be when that's what you're thinking about, but you're doing other things, asking your body to grow, asking yourself to maintain. So we work a lot of the mindset part is the biggest thing. And I would say just having like a village, right? Like having either other coaches, having your own coach, having a group, having that camaraderie, but like having the education piece of like how, when, why all those pieces are moving and how to adjust them, when to adjust them, all of that. It makes the biggest difference. Once you brainwash yourself or learn the education down for what's actually happening, it's a completely different ballgame.
Really, I have two final questions because I've taken up a lot of your time today, but the one is to avoid that panic when you step on the scale and it's up a pound. What are all the things? Can you review for me? Because I feel like people don't believe me. All the things that causes that overnight. It's not you
Like
haven't
a
gained
scale
a pound of fat.
fluctuation?
A scale of fluctuation, right?
The scale fluctuation. So, well, I have a list of like 20 things, but like,
right.
generally
20 things, people. 20 things.
and sometimes you have 4 of them in the same night. So, okay,
Right.
really quick. I have a client, actually today we talked about this. So, she had like a big scale jump over the weekend, and I was like, girl, like, what did you do? Like, I'm looking at her food logs. I'm like, there's something going on here that, you should have had a, 3-pound swing. And I'm like, she's like, well, I had some sushi and then we had pizza. And I was like, okay, so you had like, some really salty foods. And I'm like, did you add any electrolytes? And she's like, yeah, I've had several packs of Element as well every day, right? So sodium is number one. You increase your sodium drastically, you're going to see a huge scale spike because that sodium's sucking all the water in. If we have days of high or low carbohydrate, about 50 gram difference in carbohydrate sometimes it could be 2 pounds difference on the scale. So if you have a day of like high pasta for dinner, you might see that scale up in the morning because you got the glycogen sitting in your cells, you've got that water. So you got carbohydrate load change. That's why people always go, oh, I went low carb, I feel so lean. No, you don't. You just dumped a bunch of water is all you did. You just
the best thing hydrates right in the word carbohydrate. I'm like, oh, I missed that my whole life. But yeah, of course.
Yep.
Keep going.
So we've got salt, we got carbohydrates, we have alcohol consumption. So a lot of times if we have drinks, and especially post menopause, alcohol affects us very differently than it used to in our 30s. Like, I mean, one drink and I feel like I got ran over by a train, But when we drink alcohol, like we often will see, if you got on the scale, you would often see the scale drop the next morning, which is dehydration. Then we often see the scale spike day 2 post drinking.
Yeah.
And then it takes about 3 or 4 days for the scale to flatten back out. So we see that with alcohol will affect it. Travel, the time of day that you weigh yourself. If you have a really massive like leg day exercise, like I'm usually up 2 pounds after, especially like a max out week leg day, I'm always up on the scale after that. If you have sick, injured, take Advil. Advil will give me 1.5 pounds difference on the scale increase just from like 1 or 2 Advil. So that's kind of fun when you don't realize like, oh, medication can kind of affect you a little bit there. Oh gosh, there's a million things. Like all of those things happen. So sometimes you have like 3 of them. You're like, I was drinking on a plane. Oh, and I ate peanuts. Okay, well, you're going to be really screwed tomorrow.
Right. And I traveled and I haven't gone to the bathroom in 4 days.
Going to the bathroom.
Why? Go in the bathroom.
Not going to the bathroom, then you got extra sitting in you that's being weighed as well.
I know. And I love how you mentioned alcohol the day after you could drop, because I feel a lot of women take that as a sign that it's not messing with them.
It's not bad for me.
I had a crazy night, but it was fine. And I'm like, no, it's your call.
2 days, we'll see.
Give it, right, because they don't, what happened Saturday, they're not thinking about on Tuesday morning. All right, so last question. Since this is a podcast about food and that food is good to eat, what is your favorite thing in the world to eat? It can be a couple. You can give me a couple. You don't have to choose.
Oh, see, I am a salty girl. Like I could pass sweets up all day long, but you give me like a bag of like Ruffles and onion dip. Oh man, I'm all over it. I like a really good like shrimp scampi, like things like that. Like I like savory, salty food. So that's what I would choose.
Excellent.
Ruffles.
I love it.
My favorite.
Well, Mickee Stillman, where can people find you out in the world if they want to hunt you down and get you to make them muscly in menopause?
I love it. You can find me on social media. My handle is Sorta Fit Mick because I'm only sorta fit. Sorta Fit Mick is my handle there. And also at Elevated Pursuit Nutrition, epnutrition.co is our website. So you can check us out there. We have one-on-one concierge coaching going on all the time. We have group cohorts. We have all kinds of things available. So yeah. Or you can just message Kristin and,
I will hook you up. I will hook you up. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I'll be filling out my check-in in the morning, so you'll hear from me again really soon.
Yeah, I'll be watching, making sure you're eating top-end maintenance. I'm watching.